Well, 5 young leaders were shortlisted to win up to $80,000. That's over 1.5 million rand for their socially impactful ventures in Africa. The 2023 Äänit Prize finalists run transformative projects in key areas of impact, ranging from food security to public health, educational technology, and small enterprise development. The Äänit Prize is aimed at supporting initiatives that can deliver positive social impact for Africa's most marginalised populations. It is offered by the Mandela Rhodes Foundation and is open to alumni of the Mandela Rhodes Scholarship as well as the Rhodes Scholarship. Well, joining us today are two of the winners of this year's prize, Dr. Kira Düsterwald from South Africa as well as Maureen Etuket from Uganda. Ladies, a very good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, congratulations on this prestigious award. Let's start with you, Kira. Tell us more about your initiative and why it stood out for the judges.
So I'm the founder of Amatambo AI. If you've ever been to an emergency unit in a public hospital in South Africa or in Africa in general, you'll know that sometimes you have to wait a long time. And when there are only 5 doctors on duty, but 10 patients, or 5 doctors on duty and 100 patients, then you're going to wait obviously a lot longer. So having seen this problem in person, we founded Amatambo AI with colleagues in machine learning and health tech to try and look at staff scheduling in African healthcare settings. So essentially, we try to solve 2 problems. So the first is that in Africa, often staff are making rosters for their teams after hours. That takes many extra hours. And so we've automated the rostering process so that doctors and nurses can just log on to our platform and make rosters automatically within minutes that are flexible and unbiased, and that they can then edit in their own free time. The second thing we're looking at is patient prediction. So what this involves is we use variables around hospitals to try and predict the patient load that hospitals are going to see, and we pair that to our automated rostering so that you can have the right number of staff on duty for the expected patients that we're going to see. So that's what we've been working on. We're really excited to have won this prize and for really health tech to be getting a shine in Africa in general. And I think what the judges were looking for from what we could gather from them was really these innovations that can do simple things that can improve health tech. And I think Maureen can certainly talk to that as well with her venture.
Wow, that is so progressive, Dr. Kira. Congratulations once again. Well, Maureen, look, your turn now to tell us about your initiative and how it feels to be selected as one of the winners.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I am the co-founder for PAMZ Devices, and one of our innovations is the smart PVD device that won the Äänit Prize alongside Kira's innovation. And it feels great. Let me start from there. It feels great. I'm still pondering on it since yesterday. And what our innovation does is we're looking at how we can provide real-time and accurate assessment of blood loss for women after giving birth. So we noticed something. This was during a couple of ward rounds in the maternity ward, and this was back in Uganda. We noticed that many of the midwives simply estimate visually how much a woman lost. So we noticed that, like for example, what Kira just said, we're having a high patient to health worker ratio. So in a particular segment of the maternity ward, we're having 1 health worker, 1 midwife to close to 10 to 15 women, and she's delivering each one of them. And what we noticed is that there'll be cases whereby a woman just bleeds to death unattended to. And it's not exactly the fault of the midwife. She's also, the burden is too much in the healthcare setting. So we were thinking about how we can come up with this device. So it basically just gives a beep to alert the midwife of an intending PPH case so that they can come to the scene where this lady is and deliver immediate and real-time care. So that's basically the innovation, still in the healthcare field like Kira's innovation. Thank you so much.
Maureen, that is certainly great news, and I'm sure it's going to be easy to implement as well. Look, Dr. Kira, does Amatambo AI cater then for the marginalised, especially those that are situated in far-flung areas who don't even have the access to information, let alone facilities to understand the ever-changing world of technology, including, of course, artificial intelligence?
Of course, we hope to be able to cater to everyone, really. And I think part of our mission is also to communicate with people who perhaps haven't been exposed to things like artificial intelligence before. Really, I mean, so much of healthcare is actually speaking to people, understanding where hospitals come from. So this kind of thing, automated rostering, can be done in very rural settings if the staff, it's very similar to actually, in some ways, what people are used to with rostering. It's just done by a computer. So talking to staff is one way of getting there. And in terms of really helping marginalized populations and kind of going back to that, I think we really hope that this will help to reduce patient waiting times at the least, but hopefully also patient outcomes, the quality of care they receive, and even, you know, hopefully save more lives just by making sure that there are enough staff on duty when they're needed, and also making sure that staff have adequate time between their shifts and that the division of shifts is fair.
Well, certainly, you know, the Southern African diaspora needs that, Dr. Kira. Thank you for that. Maureen, what would you say then the impact of the device has been to those who have piloted it? And how do you then foresee its futuristic growth in terms of accessibility as well as demand?
Amazing. Thank you for the question. So we haven't yet piloted the device. It's a device that goes through the medical device space is a really amazing, interesting space. So we have to go through the process of a clinical trial. So at this point in time, we are set to conduct a clinical trial that's next month, October. So that's where we are in our pipeline. But we hope to be able to pilot it to transition it to the market. This will be around 2024, end of 2024. So that's our plan. But in terms of accessibility, the problem is there. And it's interesting that it's not just in Uganda. I was having a chat with someone yesterday, one of our colleagues, and he was telling me that even in the UK and the US, there is still visual estimation of blood loss. So there's not exactly a concrete quantitative assessment of how much blood a woman loses after giving birth, even in the C-section, because what we're targeting now is mainly the normal vaginal delivery. But even in the C-section, even in the theater, it's the same case. And women are dying. And in my heart of hearts, I really believe that PPH, because the entire problem wraps around postpartum hemorrhage. Yeah. I really believe that postpartum hemorrhage is something that can be solved. Yes, the causes, we cannot, let's say, reduce on the causes in a sense, because we have like the placenta being improperly detached from the uterine wall. That one we can't solve that. But what we can do, we can reduce on the chances of death, you know, and that is by earlier intervention. So that's what that's the area we're looking at. Can we intervene early? But also just looking at the number of women giving birth. Not just in East Africa, all over Africa, there's so many women giving birth. And many times when you look at the healthcare settings, you're looking at cases whereby majority of the women can only afford to be in just the very basic setting of the hospital setting. We're looking at a ward that has one midwife to close to 15. That's usually what most people can afford. So in other words, we're saving the lives of many of those women who come to such settings. It's different for maybe the private healthcare setting. It's different for those that maybe are able to afford certain standard care whereby a midwife can attend to you and you alone. It's a different case. But this is really what most women can afford at that point in time. So I believe that when you're looking at accessibility, beyond just Uganda, it's a global problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. And ladies, in closing, look, I was lucky enough to be at the recent Women in Science Awards a week ago, and to have you both on this platform speaking to your gains and strides and this in this still marginalized industry. Dr. Kira, I'm going to start with you first. I mean, talk to us about some of your individual strides in ensuring that you encourage young girls to venture into these STEM fields. That is, of course, your science, technology, of course, engineering and math fields, where we are still seeing a vast male dominance and women just cannot broker that gender parity.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's something that I've actually sort of encountered and thought about for a very long time. So I have a background both in medicine, but also actually in mathematics. I study maths as well. And now I do some research that's based on machine learning and neuroscience. And I think one of the things that I've found is really useful is really individual mentorship, is making sure that there are role models and ways that girls and young women can get involved in the tech scene, and that they see people doing this ahead of them. And while there's still quite a big barrier, I think, for women to get involved, I think it is getting better. There are more and more of these bigger movements, Girls Who Can Code, various initiatives that really focus on developing talent within women, really. And I think that having recently attended the Deep Learning Indaba, which is really where some of these ideas in health tech for me started, that's a really big kind of machine learning movement and community in Africa. What I saw there was so many females, so many entrepreneurs, so many researchers. And so I would really say to any women and young girls who are interested in mathematics, science, medicine, STEM, for one thing, just don't be afraid. There's a lot out there, a lot of people who will support you in this journey, and there's really no reason for women not to be doing this, especially if it's something that they care about. So essentially for us, really just following what we care about, what inspires us. For me, that's always been combining kind of a love of people, of mathematics, of doing social good. That's really gotten me as far as I've gotten, and that's all that I can really tell other people to do. It's all out there.
Well, thank you for that. Maureen, what are your perceptions around this? I mean, this is still a field where we see a lot of male domination. We see a lot of course, professional threats where a woman can basically go into a workspace that is basically headed by a large group of males, and they are basically threatened on their jobs, and the job security is threatened thereof because there is just not enough gender parity. Talk to us about that. How are you encouraging young women, particularly in your country as well, to go out and be part of these interesting STEM fields?
Okay, thank you so much. I first want to start by agreeing with what Kira said. Mentorship. The challenge is when people do not see who they can look up to in this field and in this space. But through competitions like this, through opportunities like this, we get to shine our light. And when people see that there's someone that can do this thing like them, they get inspired. I've met so many young ladies, and they have so much cooking inside of them. They have so much burning inside of them. And one of the things I've come to meditate on is that we should break the limitations of society. I really think that we should not look at ourselves in terms of, let's say we're in a community and I can't do this because I'm like this, or that association of limitations to you being a woman. I think we should stop that. I think it's more of, I can do all things. I can actually do it. Look at what Kira was talking about, the shift from having ladies that were not tech savvy. Now we're having prolific coders. Now we are having doctors that are changing the world. Now we are having CEOs of companies. There's a big shift. And again, I say this with caution because it's possible for a lady to rise to that point and demean everyone else below and demean the men. No, I've learned that as you rise, you need to fight to stay humble. It's the humility that keeps us grounded in these things. Because I do believe, and you see, the thing is, there's so many opportunities for ladies to shine. We've seen it, scholarships for ladies. We've seen that are, it's a tick for ladies. So I believe that right now it's just, let's change our mindset. It's no longer associating your gender to a limitation. No, change the mindset. You can do all things. And that's really what I tell many of the students that I mentor, because I happen to teach students as well. I mentor them. I tell them, no, change your mindset. You can do all things. If you see I have done it, then you can do it. If Mandela did it for South Africa, for Africa, then we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maureen. Dr. Kira, I understand you have a flight to catch, but a very quick one before I release you. Look, the UNESCO 2021 report says that only about 2% of funding was actually allocated to female startups in this country. What do you say about that when research is such a huge part of achieving these great strides, particularly in the STEM fields?
Interesting. Kira, you'd like to go ahead? Kira, go ahead.
Sure. I mean, I would say this is a tough question. It's not something that I know that much about in terms of where funding goes to entrepreneurs. I think what I would say about this particular prize is it's gone to 2 female tech entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs, and that's obviously a really good sign and a really good signal that things in some places are going in a good direction. And I would say also to that, and kind of to echo some of the things that Maureen was saying, I mean, as individuals, as women, we should not be afraid to lead. And so taking leadership roles, taking on those roles is something that I think sometimes people are afraid of as women, and that's something that also needs to definitely change. So that's sort of all that I can really say on that point. Maureen, maybe you've got a bit to add.
Right. Thank you so much, Kira. I love that. And I think that there is a conditioning to look at life from the half empty point of view as opposed to the half full. And just really in line with what Kira said, I believe that there is a shift. There is a shift, and we need to appreciate the shift as opposed to condemning the shift. Right. So the fact that the money has been allocated and we are recipients of this amazing and prestigious award, that shows that there is progress and in the right direction. And as Kira said, I really think that ladies should stand up and I can do it. And the funding will be there. We've spoken about aspects to do with demand, demand. When ladies come up and say, okay, so I'm innovating this, I'm speaking about this, I'm passionate about this, the funding will be available. That's what I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ladies, for that discussion, and congratulations once again. That was Dr. Kira Düsterwald, a South African medical doctor with the Amatambo AI initiative, alongside Miss Maureen Etuket, all the way from Uganda, a biomedical engineer as well as co-founder of Panzi Devices.